everybody. Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. On a Monday, I am Chris, and sat with me is Chris, which is always fun, the Chris's. We are here for a bonus show, which is fantastic again. And it's kind of the second time recently we've thrown a bonus show in there. And this is no exception to the level of guests and quality we have on the show. It's always impressing me and Chris that we have these wonderful people coming on. So it's fantastic. And for Monday, to break up the show, break up the week even, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we've got some incredible guests lined up. So first of all, Chris Hooley, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. This is a special 2 weeks because we have a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show for the next 2 weeks. So if you hate Mondays, now you've got reason to like them a little bit.
Well, hopefully.
They can be around. Yeah, definitely.
Well, hello to you on the chat. It's lovely to see you here. And, you know, we're very impressed that you guys give up your time so often to come and see us. We are very humbled by that. But we do. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see on our channel or if you're listening back, you can see on our channel on YouTube the shows we have lined up in the next couple of weeks. And if you're a fan of some big authors, big shows, get on there and have a look because, wow, we're very impressed with ourselves and it's just fantastic. So we're going to get on with the show as normal. We've got a guest on and her book is absolutely fantastic looking and talks about some very, very key things in the world, especially at the time where lockdown has been very stressful on people's lives. So there's a lot of things we can talk about in that sense when our guest is on. And we will get on with that very soon once we've introduced the book token, Chris.
Oh, book token.
Indeed. So the book token promotion, for the ones of you that don't know, is that every show we have, we offer the chance for anyone in the community to sponsor this show or a certain show with their book for a very small donation that keeps the show running. And that book gets shown across the bottom of the screen for the entire show and mentioned on the podcast, of course, with all the notes and the links. So let me get on with today's book. And that is, in fact, something that we reviewed recently, and that is Digging Two Graves by Linda Rainier, if you remember, Chris.
I do remember reading that book. It was very good.
Yeah, and it was the second ever short series. And in fact, Richer Than the First is one of the quotes that you put down as a great series. And
I could say Richer Than the First. There was a lot more characters in this one, a lot more character development as well. I very much enjoyed it.
Indeed. And someone said a great read with vivid scenes, an emotional roller coaster, which is always fun. And it's only had 2 reviews. It's only released recently. So please check it out. It's got 5 stars. So the bio says, after surviving a brutal attack on the Hallow, Emma dares to dream of a new life, far from what she's grown accustomed to. Her dreams of a normalcy and a second chance for love are sidelined as she encounters new lives to protect, and a perilous scheme. Hidden foes, fueled by vengeance, plot to destroy the Fury and everyone Emma cares for. They are determined to break her spirit, steal her hope, and leave her alone once again, but they have underestimated the true power of the Fury. Emma must embrace her vengeful nature as they careen towards a bloody showdown. Will anyone escape this fight for their lives unscathed? That does sound fantastic. It has great reviews, and we reviewed that as well. So please do check that out and support the authors that support the show, please.
And you can read both of my reviews for the Emma's Fury series on our website and stuff now anyway, so don't take Chris's word for it, take my word for it and read that review.
Yeah, well, you actually left a nice YouTube video for that as well, which is fantastic. So hello to you all on the chat, and Fire1666, hello to you. I believe you're not seen you on the chat before. Okay, so are you ready for our guest, Chris Hooley?
Oh, come on,
we do.
Just because it's Monday doesn't mean we can slack off.
I have been slacking. I apologise. So up there, you will see the cover of that book.
There we go.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, there she is. Hello on the chat to you. There's your book.
It's right
there. Okay, so let's get our guest on and have a lovely chat. She's a freelance writer. She's an author, a PR and marketing consultant with over 15 years in the business, in the media world, a passionate mental health campaigner, and was a columnist for Sarah Millican's Standard Issue magazine. And she's recently released her book, The 27 Club. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lucy. Hello.
Hello, hi.
How are you doing?
Yeah, it's the clunky start, isn't it? Yes, really good, thank you. Are you?
Fantastic. Yes, we are good. And as we said, we've got a very busy schedule, and it is not anything that we can sort of turn our nose down at. We are very excited to have these extra shows and for you to be here as well. We absolutely love the look of your book and the reasons behind it all and what you stand for and the things you're passionate about. It really resonates with us. So we're very, very lucky to have you on, and we thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome.
I don't go anywhere at the minute, so this is fabulous. I even put a dress on, so
oh wow,
a bit lippy.
I know. Well, sorry, Chris. Yeah, it's no excuse to have a drink, but it's nice to break the week up at people's routines at the moment, and mental health is something that we will touch on later on in the show. But it is nice to engage and have this community, which is something that's really been present in the show over the last sort of year and a half. So we're very, very fortunate to have these chats.
So Lucy, before we start, we've been asking our guests to tell us about their book. So what we found is people like to know about the book right at the beginning, and then they stay to the end because they're really interested in obviously everything the book's about and what you have to say. So if you could tell us a little bit about the book, that'd be brilliant.
Yes, and of course I've got one here.
Love a good cook. No, don't do a quick flash. Like really
get it on the screen. That's it.
There it is.
There we go.
So it's the 27 Club. So it is set in 1994 in Hull, England, and it opens on the day that the protagonist Emma hears about the tragic death of Kurt Cobain, and it explores the obsession that we have had about the so-called 27 Club. So the idea that so many some rock stars have died aged 27, and the media, I guess, I don't know, created this 27 Club narrative. So Emma is 26 and becomes quite obsessed with the idea of the 27 Club, but actually what she's really battling is a whole other story that unravels, and a bit of anxiety. So it's a bit of a nostalgic, humorous journey through the 90s, but hopefully the serious messages come through there as well. I've made people cry and laugh with it, so
well, that's two of the best emotions, right? Brilliant. It honestly sounds fantastic. So what the very first thing we like to do after that is to delve into someone's history and find out where writing came from, what the inspirations were, and how you ended up having a book published. So how did you get into writing in the first place?
I don't really know. I think through mental health stigma. I think through experiencing mental health stigma, because I started blogging. I mean, this is not that long ago. This was 2016. I started blogging and got involved with Time to Change and joined their story camp. And I'd experienced bullying and stigma relating to mental health, and I've lived with an anxiety disorder for as long as I can remember. Probably my first panic attack was back in 2015. So after I'd had this experience, I decided to write about it. And it started as a blog and then became another post and another post and another post, and it just kind of evolved from there. And then I kind of came up with this idea for a book, and I'd been really lucky to be writing for Standard Issue magazine, which is comedian Sarah Millican's magazine. So I'd been doing a lot on mental health stigma there as well, and I just had so much of it, and I couldn't stop writing that I kind of had a book's worth. And there was a mental health publisher called Trigger that wanted to publish it. So the first book was memoir, kind of ranty memoir about mental health stereotypes and stigma. And then after I wrote that, I was kind of like, I haven't really got anything else to say. I really want to keep writing, but there's nothing else interesting that I've ever done. I mean, I remember being at college saying to my art teacher, I'm going to be absolutely crap at A-level art because nothing bad's ever happened to me. It was that whole glamorization of bad angsty stuff. And that kind of brings me to this, because I just thought, well, maybe I should make it up. I don't need to think about like what I've what my life experience, I can draw on my life experience, but with fiction I can go wherever I want to go. And that kind of whole idea that I had when I was younger, that idea that drugs and mental illness and darkness were kind of endearing, and obviously as I've grown up, I've and experienced some of these things, I've realized that really isn't the case. So that kind of brought me to writing fiction.
Wow.
So Lucy, when you decided that you were going to write fiction, then how did you go about sort of structuring that idea? So you wanted to write about mental health, possibly knew you wanted to write about music in the 90s as well. So how did you sort of merge those into having a character and then having a story idea?
It's kind of difficult to think back. And I think as well, because there's this idea of writing that you're kind of just on your own writing away in a cave somewhere, and obviously it's not like that. And actually what I first did was I wanted to explore, so for the fun and the entertainment side, I wanted to explore nostalgia and music. So that's where that element came from. And obviously because all of my writing kind of had a purpose, everything I wrote for the Independent or Standard Issue was all about breaking mental health stigma. So I kind of brought them together, and I think when I started, I started looking at, it was too multifaceted, and so I came up with this sort of idea. But poor Emma at that point was experiencing loads of different problems, because I'd just gone to town on her, wanting to get every message in there that I possibly could. But I worked with a brilliant manuscript assessor and author, Angela Clark, who provided me with such brilliant feedback and really got me to sort of hone in on what is the main thing you want to say. And it just kind of went from there, really. And I was able to strip quite a lot back, and then further down the line got an agent, and she really challenged me and helped me in doing the same thing. I think you have to be quite brave to strip a lot of stuff out and sort of go back into it. So and it had to obviously be, in terms of structure, it had to start on Kurt Cobain's death, because I remember it. I remember hearing about that, and I was absolutely devastated, although I was a young teen then. And obviously I needed a birthday in there to work towards. Can
I just ask that when you were writing as a columnist, one of those, when you were writing as one of those, and that was kind of your profession at the time, and you were very sure on what you were doing, and you had a structure to do. When you transitioned to writing a book for the first time and being at fiction, how did you manage that transition? Was it easy for you, or did you have a lot of help doing that?
I think I won't underestimate the help that I've had. Certainly that early manuscript assessment was just brilliant. And having an agent to sort of help you through every step of the way. But in addition to that as well, the research, I think I didn't realise, writing fiction, that there's probably a lot more research to do. Writing non-fiction, a lot of it was from my experience, but I had loads of fun doing this, because I decided to, I won't give too much away, but I wanted some kind of gig, backstage at a gig kind of thing. And I spoke to the roadie for Senseless Things, who I loved when I was younger, and who make a cameo appearance in here. And so I was doing loads of research, learning all about what kind of tour bus they were on, what did they get up to, what did they drink, what kind of jokes did they play on each other, where did they sleep, who was allowed on the bus, all this kind of stuff. So I think a lot of sort of editorial help from Angela, and then my agent Joe, and my poor husband, who's also called Chris, who has had to have various chapters read to him 1,000 times. And then obviously the research. So I watched also lots and lots of documentaries, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Montage of Heck, the Kurt Cobain documentary, read loads. So
I've got to say, it sounds like the most hard work research I've ever heard of. I mean, it sounds terrible.
I know. I've always been quite lucky, I think, because when I was, I remember when I was at school, and I was a bit like rudderless, I suppose. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just quite like fannying around in art class and music, and I ended up going to Hull Uni Students' Union, where actually the gig is set in this, and that was my work experience, hanging out with the students smoking cigarettes. It was brilliant. Getting to go to a teenage fan club gig aged 15 and sit on the guest list. But I've been quite lucky, really, because I've had some sensible grown-up jobs, but I've spent a lot of time working in the arts. And I used to work at Hull Truck Theatre Company. That's actually where I met my husband, and it was just we worked hard, but my God, it was fun.
I bet as someone who was in arts and media and things like that in the 90s, then Kurt Cobain genuinely was a massive influence in your life at the time.
Yeah, I think because I was probably about 10 years younger than Emma, the character. So I think I was maybe 15 or 16. Interestingly, actually, 94 was probably when I had my first ever panic attack. So it was when I was being consumed with this existential angst and panic, and I just adored when I was introduced to Nirvana and Hole and Pixies and Senseless Things, and I just adored it because it just felt like, I don't know, you were joining some kind of community, and you felt like it was quite exclusive, and you didn't tell the other girls at school about it because you didn't.
It really did feel. It did feel back then like it was a sort of a club, whereas now I think music is so diverse and everyone's in their own groups. It's almost minimalized because it's so spread out. Whereas back then, that really was a genre of music that people felt part of.
Yeah, it was really tribal. Really, I used to get called a greb at school. And it might be because I wore bright red baseball boots and a massive hooded cardi and baggy trousers, as we all adapt our school uniform, don't we? But yeah, I've got this here, this magazine, because this is from, I'm not holding it in the right place, I need to get used to these things. This is from 1993, and I remember it was the first issue of The Face that I ever bought, and I bought it because of Courtney Love.
Can you hold that back up and zoom in a little bit so we can see the name that's below it as well?
The name
Nicolas Cage is right in the middle of that, and we've got a big fan club of Nicolas Cage in this show.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Nicolas Cage, Elvis and me, it says. No.
Wow, that's a story.
Yeah, so I was just anything that had Kurt or Courtney, Kristen Hirsch, Kat Bjelland, Kim Gordon. I just dreamed of being like them and part of, and we weren't like that. We were just school kids, drinking a Diamond White. Like we just weren't really.
£2.50 flag and a cider, win.
Yeah.
So talking about someone who was a very fine fit for your story in terms of that captivating that era and talking about mental health was clearly someone like Kurt Cobain who struggled with mental health clearly, and whatever happened with him at the end was very tragic. So there was clearly a good connection between the two there. So how did you then take that forward without treading on toes in the kind of wrong way, if that makes sense?
Oh, it still panics me. It still really panics me. I think it's being very clear, and it says on the book that it's a story of friendship, hope, and fandom. And I think that's the point, is that I'm writing this as a fan, and the whole purpose, the whole sort of the story is that headlines don't really tell us anything. I think the actual dedication that I've got in here says to all the lives behind the headlines that we cannot truly claim to know. And so what I'm really interested in is how there were all these headlines and stories and conspiracy theories. I mean, my God, after Kurt Cobain died, people actually seriously exploring the idea that Courtney Love was behind it. It was just like bizarre. And we still have all this stuff goes on today. That was the 90s, and there's still all this stuff that goes on. And I'm just really interested in that whole be kind idea that people don't seem able to really buy into. And we don't know. We read and consume all these headlines, but we don't really. I don't know. I never knew Kurt Cobain. I thought I did as a 14, 15-year-old, but I didn't know him. I just thought he was brilliant and loved his music, and so I think it was just making sure that at no point was I going into it as a music expert or as somebody who knew about the lives of Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, and because I don't.
Yeah.
But that's the point to it. So yeah.
So Lucy, would you? I've got two questions here, I suppose. The first one: would you ever consider creating a character that was similar to Kurt Cobain, so you could explore some of the issues that he maybe have gone through, but in a fictional sense? Is the first one. And my second question, that's kind of linked into the creating characters. Obviously, you talked about Emma and bringing in loads of different ideas. At first, you said she just had loads of things going on. So would you ever be tempted to bring out different books in the future that explore other aspects that you wanted to explore at the start?
Yes. So I think the reason I'm really interested in the 27 Club and headlines and just the industry generally is because I've worked in the arts, and my husband is an actor, and he's spoken out about mental health problems, and I think just because we've been together a long time, seeing the pressure that he had to fly out to Broadway to perform just days after his mum passed away, and the pressure that's on performers, and all the time thinking, if I don't make this show, that's all the people who have paid for the ticket, that's people who have had meals, have got accommodation, the crew, the rest of the and so I'm very, very interested in that. But I think if you look at it at a human level, I don't think we could ever say I would explore something sort of as I thought Kurt Cobain might have experienced it, because I don't really know what he experienced. But I think at the heart of everything, there's potentially a mental health problem or pain or trauma, and whether that be psychiatric, psychological, environmental, I'm just really interested in how we respond to things, and addiction stigma is something I'm really interested in, because I've done a lot of work in addiction stigma, and I was on the board of an addiction recovery charity for a long time, and I think it very often is considered a lifestyle choice. So I think if I was going to explore a character, there is quite a bit of drinking drugs in here that is kind of there as a self-soothing thing, but it's not addiction that I've tackled here. So I would be interested in exploring addiction more closely.
How would you go about doing that, Lucy, in terms of, obviously addiction is not something that you've got two problems, I suppose, because as a writer, you want to write to entertain the reader and get the reader's attention and to keep them into the story. But at the same time, if you're trying to portray or trying to get across addiction in a way that you want to, that's not necessarily going to partner up with the two. So you'd probably have to have some really difficult sort of scenes in there that are kind of stereotypical, if that makes sense, in order to entertain the reader. Or how would you do it?
I think you can stay away. I mean, I've been really lucky over the years. I've got to work with lots of TV shows on mental health portrayals. So I was a script advisor for Mind, and have done it for Road to Recovery Trust on addiction. And I think that it's always a bit of negotiation, because they have to get the like you say, the viewer has to be entertained, but they're also exploring these issues because to educate, to break stigma, which is really great. But a lot of the TV shows that we've worked with, so like Coronation Street and Hollyoaks and EastEnders, they're really, really open. If there is something in the script that we feel is quite stereotyped, they're really open to sort of negotiating that out. I think it's just more about if you get to know your character first, you can't go wrong. Because I think if you look at how the character might behave under the influence of drink or drugs, or when experiencing depression, if you remember who that person is, I think it's harder to go wrong. Whereas if all of a sudden a person is, behaving like, I don't know, you're writing on
just
the wall
being
or
very
something,
different. I get,
it can be quite stereotyped, I think. So whilst mental health problems do, they do make us behave out of our everyday character, they don't change who we are. So I think as long as you remember that and keep hold of that person and that character, then I think it works okay. So I think you really can entertain without sensationalizing. And I think the way I've done it with the books, I've used a lot of humor, but I don't use humor during the moments of panic, because God, I know it's not funny. It really isn't. But I use humor around it in other scenarios, and I think that's maybe the way to do that.
I've got a question regarding this topic, and it's kind of, do you think that you've done a lot of work in this subject, like you just mentioned, but over the past, perhaps, I'd say 10 years, that it was really hard for people almost to come out with the mental health issue. And now you've got people like Roman Kemp, for example, has done a lot of great work recently over his sort of trauma. He openly admitted that since he was like 15 years old, he was taking antidepressants. Do you think it's these sort of people in a position of influence now that have been able to talk to younger people that is really expressing this, that is a normal thing that you need to talk about?
I think it's a mix. I think it can't only work like that, but I think influencers definitely have a part to play. I remember my friend Paul telling me that he'd read, now I'm not very good with the Spice Girls, I think it was Jerry Halliwell's book, but he'd read Jerry Halliwell's book, and she'd said something about anxiety, and he said all of a sudden he was just like, yes, I am not weird, like other people experience this, Jerry Halliwell experiences this. So I do think celebrities and influencers have a big part to play, but also I think there's a lot that happens that's very much kind of, the big ticket stuff, like if it's thinking about an organization, for example, if you have an organization that's supportive of mental health, you can't just put a graphic out on Mental Health Awareness Week and sign the Times Change pledge. It's not just about these big gestures. It's not even just about having counselling available for employees. It's about normalising the conversation. And I sometimes think that we all have a responsibility there, which is why whenever I went into work, if I'd had a panic attack and I was feeling like, a bit shaky from it, I would say, because you'd say if you had a headache, so what's the difference? And I remember sitting at my desk one time, and one of our colleagues from another service came and sat with us, and I just remember him saying, "Oh, I'm really hot, I'm sweating," and someone said to him, "Oh, are you all right? Are you not well?" And he said, "Oh, it's my new antidepressants. They're just, I think I'm not used to them yet." And this conversation was so normal, and I just listened into it, and I just thought, that's the magic. That's about the culture change. It's not about standing with a Times Change pledge and having your photo taken and putting it in the local paper. It's about making sure that everybody is comfortable having those conversations. So I think we just need to come at it all levels. We need the celebrities, but we just need everyday people like me and you as well.
So, Lucy, as a writer that's writing about these issues, how do you write about it without it? Because obviously having like an anxiety attack is a very, well, I don't know how to describe it other than it's a really stressful time in somebody's life. So how do you then go about portraying that on the page? Because I should imagine you, to a certain extent, you are reliving that trauma that you've had, if that makes sense.
This is a really, really interesting conversation. And I'm sure it was Joanne Harris, who's obviously a much bigger author than me, who tweeted something the other day about glamorizing the whole art and, the whole tortured artist thing that, we hear people talk about, all the poets with bipolar, or, we have these conversations. And there is this idea around that, and I saw a few people writing, and I totally agree that your art doesn't come from being in that moment. It comes from being able to reflect, because if you're not far enough away from it, you can't look at it objectively. Because if I was too close to it, if I just experienced a panic attack, I wouldn't be thinking about that panic attack. I'd be thinking about thinking that I had meningitis, or thinking that my throat was closing up and I was going to die. They're very, for me, the panic attacks were awful, like horrible. Several trips to A&E and all sorts. So I think you have to have that. You have to be able to step back from it. So having experienced it gives me that in-depth insight. How I process that when I'm writing, I'm removed enough that I'm safe. If I was experiencing anxiety, I wouldn't be writing.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great answer. Fantastic. What we'll do is we will ask some staple questions for the show, which will put you on the spot, perhaps, which tends to be the case. So we'll do that, and just after we do that, we'll introduce someone that follows the show, give them a bit of a boost on Twitter, and then we'll get the guys who are watching the show to drop us some questions. So if you do have questions for Lucy or for ourselves, now is the time to drop them in, please, and we will read them out shortly. So Lucy, we'll let Chris Hooley start this off, and we're going to ask a couple of questions now to do with writing, but just be loose and have fun with these, and don't stress about it.
Okay, so the first question that we have, Lucy, is if you could change the ending to any novel, which novel would it be and why?
Oh my God. I've just read one. One called Last One at the Party by Beth Clift. And I think the ending's perfect because I haven't stopped thinking about it. So in a way, I wouldn't change it, but I haven't stopped thinking about it because I want to know what happened.
Oh no!
So it was a fantastic novel about a pandemic, not this pandemic. It was just brilliant. And then the character at the end, you're left a little bit unsure about what happened there. So Beth,
it would be an addition.
A little tiny bit more, yeah.
I want to know what happened, yeah.
and fair play to you reading a pandemic book during the pandemic. I mean, bravo.
I didn't think I would. Do you know what? Yeah, I think sometimes you have to pick things up that you wouldn't normally read, and it's like I can never say this word, apocalyptic fiction, and that was just, I was like, I don't know if that would be for me, and I got sent an advanced copy of it, and my God, I loved it. Lent it to my 22-year-old stepson. He read it in 24 hours. It's just an amazing book. So that, for what I've learned from that experience, is pick something up you wouldn't normally.
Well, I love an apocalyptic story, so send that name my way, and I will look into it definitely.
Definitely.
Okay, so the other part of that question would be, if you could take a character from fiction, whether it be TV, film, literature, anything, what character would you take and put into perhaps your own story, into a different story of your own? What character?
Oh God!
Off anything.
Oh my God! Do you know what? The first thing that springs to mind is Nancy from Oliver Twist. I know
that's the first.
Really old school and not very, I don't know. It's not very contemporary of me.
What would you do with Nancy from Oliver's Twist?
I think I'd just be really interested to understand her, because she's pretty hardcore, isn't she? She's pretty hardcore, but she's living with such abuse, such horrific abuse. And I won't say too much, but I'm actually exploring something like that in my current project. The idea that somebody is such a tough character, and really strong character, and is living with such awful abuse around them, and I think I'd really like her.
So here's a question that's not a staple question, but it's linked to Nancy. So if you had to pick 3 bands for Nancy's character, like which bands would you pick that would suit Nancy?
Oh my God. Well. Well, I'm going to put Hole in there. I've got to have Courtney Love in there. Most definitely. Oh no, sorry. I'm going to go all down this same genre. So Hole, Babes in Toyland, and then something a bit more like Christine Hirsch. I would have. Yeah, so something a bit more haunting, and then something really out there and screamy.
Like it. The next question that we have, that's a staple question, is it's a bit morbid, so I apologize in advance. But you're on your deathbed, and you're looking back at your writing career. What is success to you? What would you be happy with?
This is so cheesy. So I'm such a fangirl. A Senseless Thing has read my book, and I'm absolutely over the moon about it. So A Senseless Thing, a Ned's Atomic Dustbin person, and a Wonder Stuff person has got my book. If Courtney Love read it, I'd be over the bloody moon.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Let's get that tweeted.
Cheesy fangirl stuff here.
Amazing.
Wow, fantastic.
That's a good answer.
It is a good answer, definitely is. Okay, so we'll wait for some questions to come in. But while we do that, I mean, there is definitely a different part of that question, Chris, that you asked last week, in fact, on Friday, to Sarah Pinborough. And she answered this. She said, basically, if you could have a crack at any fictional character, what person would that be? And she thought having a crack at them was something else.
Right.
She answered that, but you don't have to. I mean, that's a weird question.
Yeah, you can answer that if you want to. Fictional character.
So what do you actually mean?
Well, we did initially mean have a go at writing that character. But it's been misinterpreted a few times to mean something else.
But we also like the question that if you could bring a character back to life and do something with them, it doesn't have to be the division. What character would you bring back to life to have an afternoon with? Is a good question.
Well, author, not character. Can't bring them back, mate. They're fictional.
Well, why not?
Well, character-wise, I did write a little short piece that was performed for the Coronavirus Theatre Company. So basically, a bunch of actors got together when lockdown happened and created this platform for writing, acting, directing. And so I had a professional actor and director bring a piece of writing to life, and so the character was Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
Oh,
and
good choice.
she ran a gym palace, so it was a woman. So I suppose that answers the question.
Yeah, love it.
Who had a siren going on just then?
Oh, that was me.
Of course it was Chris from Manchester.
Yeah, that was my fault. So I muted the mic as quickly as I could. I was like, "Oh no, the police!" I had a good question then as well. Now it's gone.
Well, I'll do the new family member in that time.
Oh no, I've got it. So Lucy, obviously you talked about writing humour and writing things that are funny, and you talked about working for Sarah Millican's newspaper. Who obviously we know as a comedian. So what advice would you give to a writer that maybe wants to tackle comedy? Because obviously not everyone's good at writing comedy, but it helps if you have some advice.
Well, I don't know. Am I any good at writing comedy?
Well, there's been some good reviews of your book suggesting it's very funny, so yeah, I guess so.
Oh God, I feel a bit like an imposter answering that question. I feel like go and ask Sarah Millican that question. I don't know. I suppose that a lot of stuff I've drawn on a lot of funny experiences. I think just having that bank of stuff that happened. There's a couple of things in the 27 Club that actually did happen to me that I'm not sure I'll mention, but yeah, I suppose just kind of observing people around you, and I think as well, I really enjoy. I get a lot out of nostalgia because I think that's always so funny. So even when I wrote Series of Unfortunate Stereotypes, I talked a lot about like the 80s and, you know, kind of drawing on some of the all the strange things we experienced back then, the public service, the government advice ads or whatever they were, like terrifying is all about flying our kite and stuff. And so I just think like just kind of reflecting on the way things were is quite good fun. But yeah, I feel like too much food in Foster's so much else.
I think observational comedy is one of my favourites, and it's just so funny. And someone like Billy Connolly, for example, has been an absolute genius at doing that. And I've got a few of his books and just love listening to him. Even the story about the word F-U-C-K, it's just the origins of that story from him is so funny just because of the way people react to it all around the world. So I think you're absolutely right there that observational is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
Okay. What we're going to do is introduce a new family member. And Lucy, what this means is someone on Twitter that's recently followed us. We have picked them by random, pretty much, and we're going to speak about them. And people who are watching the show can send them a GIF on Twitter. Do you know what a GIF is?
Yes, I'm not not that technically inept.
That's fine. We've had people get up, such as Ian Ranking, stand up, physically pick up a gift, and then ask for the address to send them to him, which was fantastic. We loved it, and it was a great moment in the show. But I just wanted to make that clear. So we'll play a little video. But whilst we're playing that, have a think of something GIF orientated we can send them that everyone can send this person, and it can be anything at all. Any theme, any show, music, whatever you want to do. So let me play the video and I will introduce that new family member. Lucy's face was cracking, man. Anyway, right, what we're going to do is this person, Fiona Thomas, and that is at Fiona A likes, and that's how it's said as an at for Twitter. And her bio says out of office, book and podcast. So she's got a book called Out of Office, which is also a podcast. It's the #1 seller on Amazon, featured in Forbes, Stylist, Daily Mail, and Women's Health, which is fantastic. Words for Happiful, Metro, and Krazer. So yeah, she looks. She's got a few more followers than what we used to do. Is someone with just a few followers. We're just doing sort of recent followers. So that for you is a bit of a shout out. So Lucy, what are we sending this person?
I know Fiona.
No way.
Actually,
I've never met her, but we share the same agent. So
that is not premeditated at all. She followed the show and she was like second but one followed recently. Clicked on it. That was it, and that's the person.
So what do? I come up with what?
Just give us a GIF, and then everyone watching or listening back can send her a GIF and say welcome to the show with a weird GIF.
And it's not based on that strange picture.
Oh no, nothing.
No.
That was her profile picture, and that's not so strange.
It means the video.
No, not the video. So anything at all. It can be 90s stuff, bands, books, cats, whatever you want to do.
I think, what would we send Fiona? She does lots about working at.
It can be something you like.
This is the trickiest question.
This is the easiest one. Just name something you like. I mean,
I'd send her a pizza.
I love it.
Amazing.
We've had some random stuff. I mean, dry shampoo is on there. We've had cats. We've had. I couldn't even tell you, Chris. I can't remember what we've had. We've had some bizarre stuff, but pizza's good.
Pizza is the best answer we've had.
Send her something like along the lines of a Kit Kat. Have a break, have a Kit Kat, because Fiona does lots of stuff about like work and looking after yourself when you're freelance and stuff. So let's send her something that gives her a break.
I can't believe that you know this person. It's amazing.
I know.
I just typed in Kit Kat and it's just loads of random cat gifts. Look at that guy with a cat.
That's quite.
That's
cool.
off the film Cats, right?
Maybe, but it's freaky. Whatever it is.
So at Fiona A likes is her name on Twitter. and send her take a break type thing and say, love from the writing community, or welcome to the writing community, and Lucy, who knows you. And write
That's nostalgia for you, isn't it? Look at that.
Yeah. And write on, if you're listening back or you're watching this, write hashtag Lucy knows you or something like that, just weird. Confuse her even more. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so writing community question time. Guys, if you have questions, send them in right now and we will ask them. So before they send some questions in, I've got a question for you myself. And that question is, what would you call a 90s boy or girl band if you were in one and you had to pick the name?
That's a great. She was in one by the sound of it. Thought that was you going to go, oh, I was in a band.
I was in one. No, not no.
Oh.
I was, but I was about 9, and we had tambourines.
Okay.
We were called the Blushers. We've got band photos and everything, and we did covers of like Lamal and Kajagoogoo and Madonna, and even Eartha Kitt and Gary Newman. But yeah, so that's amazing. 80s. So
that was the Blushes?
The Blushers, yeah.
Okay, so what if you had your own band and you would get the choice? What would you pick? Life on the chat says the Rubber Ducks. I quite like that.
You would definitely be in the Blushers, Chris. To be fair, you blush at anything remotely rude, and you go bright red.
That's not true. Anyway,
doing it now.
The sky is falling in, because that's kind of
that's light and fluffy.
Yeah.
The sky is falling in. That's a great band name.
I don't know.
What was the last one?
Broken Biscuits.
I just said biscuits. I was in. That's the Broken Biscuits is quite good.
I'm not cool enough to be in a 90s band. I'm really not. So I don't know.
Chris, what would you have your band be?
I can't think of anything other than the Broken Biscuits now.
That's a good name. I like that.
It's a great name. My grandma used to work in a biscuit factory, so she used to bring bags of broken biscuits home. So that has a bit of nostalgia for me. I'd
call our band the Frosty Ales.
Frosty Ales? Are you thirsty?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I've got a squash. Okay, that's a good question. The Frosty Ales, why not? Okay, question from Hallow. What do you think the future of what, I don't even know what the word is, in the media looks like? Chris, can you read that?
Is it neurodiversity?
That's the one. I told you I can't read big words.
I've just, so I've been reading a lot about, it's awful because I can't remember the name of the charity, but there's somebody who is kind of encouraging other corporate organisations to have neurodiversity represented on board, so in the boardroom, and I've also been chatting to somebody else about how we should remove, say, certain traditional qualifications from job specs, so that you know, and I think that we should celebrate more neurodiversity, because I think that everybody, if you see people as people, everybody brings something different, and you can see my husband is ADHD. He was diagnosed ADHD, so like I get the frustrations of living with a neurodiverse person. But oh my God, he's like one of the most talented people I know. And so I think that, I imagine that neurodiversity in the media, there's probably a lot of genius, creative, talented people out there who are considered neurodiverse. And, but yeah, so I don't know. I hope there is more representation.
I certainly like the thing you mentioned where generic qualifications for certain jobs stand. I mean, look at GCSEs in the UK, that when you're 16, you take exams that when you're in your 30s, your 40s, you're relying for a job that has nothing really to do with those qualifications. I think it's bizarre.
Yeah, and I think everybody learns differently. And I think just because, some people do really well in exams and some people do really well creating. And, I just think that, if a degree's not for you, because that style of learning doesn't suit you, for example, then why should it stop you? I think, whether you've lived with dyslexia or ADHD or or autism. You know, people bring so many wonderful things as part of who they are. So
it's really so outdated. And I mean, all I can think of in the general term is that each organisation has a theory test and a physical or assessment test based on what they produce or they run or whatever the case may be. And if you're good at doing that, then you fit the profile. And I just don't know. I think we're well out of date. Anyway, that's a very serious topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. Okay. Anya says, if you could have dinner with any 90s band person, band person, who would it be and what would you eat?
It would be.
Sliding over a copy of a book. Here you go.
There's a theme, isn't there? So I would quite like to sit with Courtney Love and Kat Bjelland, actually. And what would I eat? I don't know. I've just made this new granola that I really like, and it's really nice with raspberry and cranberry yogurt. So
yeah, but would you request that in front of Courtney Cox?
Courtney
Love.
Oh,
Courtney Love.
yeah, that's a different show. yeah, different story. Okay. Would you request that in front of Courtney?
I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit like middle class, isn't it? Granola.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Would you be too nervous to eat it, or would you be like, "Hey, guess what? I've got some granola."
I'm never too nervous to eat. Never.
I've got some granola. Oh. Chris, who would you have dinner with from a 90s band?
Oh, wait, do Oasis count as a 90s band?
Oh, don't say Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, definitely Noel Gallagher, 100%. It's not going to be Liam, is it?
Well, just any Gallagher.
And what's it or something? No, definitely. Talk Tonight is one of my favourite songs ever, so I'd love to know a little bit of the background behind that, directly from Noel's mouth. That'd be cool.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, back from Halo. Best 90s TV show.
Oh, it's weird, isn't it, when you watch things back from the... Actually, no, I know. I've got it. Because we're so late to the party, and it's kind of just 90s, but gone into the 2000s and whatever. Sopranos. We've just been watching Sopranos.
Was that really in the 90s?
Wow.
I think it started in 99, and then I think so. I can just get away with it. No, I've got to mention The Word. Do you know of The Word?
Yeah.
With Terry Christian and Katie Puckrick and the hopefuls that would do anything to get on TV. So yeah, The Word. It was anarchic.
I used to like Saved by the Bell.
Oh yes.
And weirdly, I think I used to watch Dawson's Creek.
Oh, I never got into Dawson's Creek. I liked what was that other thing called with she's now in Homeland.
I know the lady you're on about, the crazy lady. I don't know what she used to be in.
I can't remember the name of it, but I really liked it, so that's really helpful.
Halo says her band would be called the Poisoned Potatoes.
That's a good
I like
name.
it. Yeah.
I've read that on Twitter. Some like that potatoes, once they go green, they are poisonous. Is that like? Does anybody else know anything about that? This is a weird.
That My So-Called Life. That's it.
Which also starred. Oh my goodness, he was the recent Joker. Jay something.
I don't know. That was.
No, I'm thinking
Jared Leto.
Yeah,
Phoenix, who played the Joker.
No, before in the
Jared Leto.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, Jared Leto.
Okay, Buffy. I know Connor would love that. Jared Leto. Thank you, Leto.
Yeah. Very popular as Jared Leto.
Claire Danes, is that the woman?
Yeah.
There you go.
She's Claire Danes.
Yeah.
No way. She was in Romeo and Juliet, obviously, wasn't she as well?
Oh, she was, yeah.
Hated Leonardo DiCaprio, apparently.
Apparently so. Okay, I'm just trying to find some more questions because there's lots of chat coming in. Sorry, apologies. I've lost myself. As not for middle class, I don't think Courtney Love would care either. No, I don't think she would. Okay, I can't find a. Why does Jared Leto sound so familiar? Leto, he's a big actor, but he's also 30 Seconds to Mars singer, but he's in TV for a long time. But anyway, since
Lucy,
the 90s.
obviously you've finished this novel now, and this is out now for everyone to get. And what's the plan for your writing future then? What can we expect?
So I am just working on the next draft of my next book, which I am sending to my agent in 2 weeks exactly.
Pressure's on.
Mm-hmm. No, she's extended it for me already. But
that's the sign of a true artist.
But it's great because I've drafted a couple of drafts, and she's really challenging me, and it's really good. And every time I think, oh my God, I've got loads to do, and then I start working through it and think, oh, this is so much better now. So hopefully it'll be all right. So I'm working on so it's fiction, but it's present day, and it's exploring abuse. So it's and friendship. So,
but with a sci-fi twist.
With a sci-fi twist.
Did you just say science fiction?
No.
I misheard you completely. Interesting. There is a question.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a question that Hallow has asked that I was going to ask earlier, and it kind of missed part of the conversation, so I will ask it now. And it's taken back to a topic that we talked about earlier, but it's a very valid question, and I genuinely think this may be the case personally. With a lot of artists that I've sort of followed, 90s band Counting Crows, for example, Adrian Duritz is very in this category in my mind. But Hallow says, do you think mental illness is often correlated with creativity?
So there's books and studies on this. Actually, I've got something by Kay Redfield Jameson, who is an American psychotherapist or psychologist who herself has bipolar disorder, and there are lots of studies. There are arguments kind of either way. I think it's really hard to say, and I think going back to the question previously when we were talking about writing about panic attacks and things, I don't think that anybody who is ill, because obviously with mental health problems, recovery can be like this. So, I'll probably have an anxiety disorder for life. I've been on meds for 6 years, might be on them forever. But right now I'm well and I can write. And as I said, if I wasn't well, I wouldn't be. I would probably just sit. I know when I've been ill with anxiety before, I've just sat, no telly on, not eating, not just kind of just not doing anything, because my brain's going too quickly to allow me to. So I think there's maybe something in being able to reflect on experiences. I really, really feel privileged to be able to, sit with peace around me. So, if I'm just sat reading a book in bed and it's quiet, because I've been through panic attacks and anxiety, that really means something to me. So I might appreciate it more, perhaps. And I'm sure people say similar things about depression, and people talk about addiction like that, that you hit rock bottom, and so you've obviously had some quite full-on experiences. But I think the difficulty is it's this idea of glamorizing it, mental health problems, like I did when I was a teenager and said I won't be very good at art because nothing bad's ever happened to me. I think that when you're ill, and I as I said, I certainly couldn't write or do anything productive when I'm not well. But I do think there is something on having experienced highs, lows, darkness, light. Your brain going a million miles an hour or just stopping. It's still, I think reflecting on that is helpful.
I think, as you mentioned, that life experience is a great asset when it comes to writing and just relaying that information. And the one thing's for sure that myself included, Chris, I know you've been the same, and a lot of people that we know, especially in the community that we formed, mental health issues, whether it's anxiety or just depression or something that comes and goes, is something that's prevalent in all of us. So the hardest thing that in my mind, that when you're in that position is actually letting that be known to people. And what we've discovered is that the community that we've got is very tight, and whether you want to pop on a message to one of us or all of us and talk, that you really can do that. And we urge you to do so, because you're not alone, and we've all kind of been in our own sort of situations. It may not be the same as yours, but we're there to talk to you. So please do reach out, and I will pop across the bottom of the screen very shortly some numbers you can call if you need to, and just don't be alone, and we're here for you. So please do that.
Yeah, and Lucy, can you, before we go, because we just got to the hour mark, can you tell us where we can find everything that you do in terms of your writing? I know you do a blog as well, and your website and stuff like that, just so people can come and find you.
Yes, so Twitter, Lucy E. Nichol. I think Instagram's the same. Facebook, Lucy Nichol Author. Yes, lucynichol.com. A really creative web address. And I've just started a YouTube channel as well, which I think is Lucy Nichol. I don't
We'll find that and subscribe. I mean, lucynichol.com, I spent ages on there. It's a fantastic website. And you write a lot of articles, a lot of blogs, and you do a lot of talks, open talks about sort of mental health in workplaces, in writing events even. Do you want to quickly talk about that? How does that go down?
Yeah, I've got one coming up next week, actually, for Newcastle College. So, yeah, I do quite a lot on mental health in the media, because I've done so much work with Time to Change and the media advisory stuff with Mind through my own experiences. So yeah, I do talk a lot about mental health in the media, and as somebody who has been blocked by Piers Morgan.
Well done.
So, yeah, he. Anyway, but it was quite a while ago. But yeah, so I talk about kind of, the power of influencers and how we can challenge and when we should challenge and stuff like that. And, it's kind of based on my experience and working with lots of people in mental health and media. So, yeah.
Should we tag him in the show, see if he'll come on and respond? I mean, nothing to lose there.
I can't even see anything he put. So people were saying,
don't worry, you're not missing anything.
No, don't worry. Anyway, so Lucy, all I can say is thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing and raising awareness, because it is so amazingly important. And well done for creating something out of your experiences and throwing such a great nostalgic twist on there. So just thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
So much.
Guys, we will see you. If you look at our YouTube, if you go on YouTube, if you listen to the podcast, jump on YouTube and have a look at the next 4 shows coming up. The live streams, we've got some incredible guests on. Chris, do you want to run through a couple of those?
No, I'm just really impressed with the stuff that you've got, the information that you've got going on at the bottom of the screen. I think we should all highlight, because obviously it's really important. So Chris has already mentioned it, but if you want to talk to someone about your mental health, he's got all the numbers on there as well, which is fantastic. And yeah, reach out to us. We are more than happy to chat to anyone. Our inbox is open, so give us a little message if you want to as well.
It is, absolutely. So check out our new show, subscribe if you haven't already, check out what's coming up, and make sure that you support the authors and support the show. Pick up Lucy's book as well. We'll leave the links in the description for that. And please stay safe. We'll see you on Wednesday, and we can't wait to chat to you again. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.